Now it is difficult to find a person who has not heard about the game of Squid. In recent weeks, this South Korean drama has been loved by millions of people around the world and has become the main sensation of world cinema. And this is connected not only with an interesting plot, but also with very spectacular scenes. How were the most dangerous of them filmed? What did the staging of the deadly scenes look like, and what did the actors risk? Let's find out. With you, the top hype in this issue, I will tell and show how the most dangerous scenes from the Squid Game were filmed. I warn you, there will be a lot of spoilers. Red light, green light. The first game became one of the main characters of the drama. In just a couple of weeks, a lot of parodies were filmed for the first game, billions of videos appeared in TikTok, filmed with the sound of a doll singing a song, and the scene itself did not leave anyone without impressions. This is largely because everything is shot here almost naturally. Of course, no one was really killed, but the scenery in the scene was really huge. Even the doll we saw in the first episode is just as gigantic in reality. Now she is standing in Jincheon County, 3 hours away from Seoul. The second reason for the epicness of the scene is the extras. 456 people were actually filming in the scene, not counting the masked guards. And it's amazing. This, by the way, affected the safety of filming. The actors risked injury in the crush in the escape scene to the door and risked painfully colliding with each other. Do not forget about the falls. Many participants of the game got into turmoil, including the main character Sun Ki-hun. And although mattresses were used on the set for this purpose, the scene cannot be called safe. But another game was much more dangerous. Tug of War. The third game, which the participants had to play, was remembered by many viewers for its scale. Here, for the first time, the viewer sees truly huge scenery. A giant field with a sensor doll and a playground with a large slide from the second game is also epic. But for me, the Tug of War platform is even more epic. On both sides of the platform, located tens of meters above the ground, teams stand up and begin to tug the rope. Those who lose, fly down without a chance of salvation. Of course, the rope scene was filmed using a large amount of computer graphics, but this did not make the filming process completely safe. The actors, like their heroes, were also standing on a platform located above the ground, but it was much closer to the ground, a few meters. The actors, whose heroes were destined to die, literally hung over a small abyss. This in itself is dangerous, so even when shooting, all the actors, in principle, risked falling off the platform. And although there was not solid ground waiting for them at the bottom, but boxes and strong safety elements, no one wanted to fall. Fortunately, there were no injuries on the set, but the actor gave a lot of strength. The fifth game with a glass bridge partially resembles the rules of Tug of War, because in case of defeat, the hero was eliminated from the game, also dying from hitting the ground after falling. According to the plot, the distance from the bridge to the ground was very large, but on the set, of course, everything was different. The bridge was the same as we saw on the screens, but it was about 1.5 meters to the ground. Quite a bit, but even that was enough to make the actors uncomfortable. Ho On-jong, who played the role of Kanza-baek, said that filming this scene was scary. By the way, for Ho On-jong, this role was his film debut. As for me, the Korean supermodel coped with it perfectly. But back to the scene. The actors really jumped on the tempered glass. There were no fragile glasses on the set. Instead, the actors landed on a small platform, which immediately disappeared from under their feet. That is, the actors literally felt the sensation of falling down, hence the not feigned emotions of fear, and the scene in which San-woo pushes down the glacier, player number 017, was filmed differently. It was no longer 1.5 meters to the ground, but more, and the actor had to fly down, with insurance, of course. And although the cable was reliable, and there were boxes at the bottom, something could have gone wrong and the actor would have been injured. But fortunately, it worked out. The game of Squid was not the easiest in terms of filming, and the sixth, final game, actually the game of Squid, in which it was decided who would leave the mysterious island with billions of won. It cannot be said that the scene of the battle between Song Ki-won and Sang-woo was very dangerous, but it cannot be called safe either. The actors played the scene without understudies, at least the scenes shot in close-up were exactly like that. There were several moments in such scenes where something could go wrong. This is both the scene of throwing sand in San-woo's eyes, and the scene in which San-woo tries to finish off with Ki-hun, hovering over one with a knife. Of course, props were used on the set, but the actors still risked shooting in this episode. Fortunately, only their heroes were injured, and the scene itself turned out to be especially epic. Computer graphics and cinematic rain made it very dramatic. This game was the sixth and last in the drama. By the way, did you know that director Hwang Dong-hyung originally planned to name the project Round 6 by the number of games? It's good that he changed his mind, because such a name would be boring. But when watching the drama itself, you don't have to be bored. The creators put a lot of details into it, many of which you probably missed when you first viewed it. Let's fix it. It's time to find out the most interesting hidden details and chips from the Squid Game, as well as get acquainted with a couple of dorama theories. Only 2 players, Ki-hun and Sang-woo, reached the final, and only Ki-hun left the game. All the other 455 players were eliminated one way or another. When watching the drama, it was difficult to guess exactly how this or that hero would die, but in fact there were hints. For example, in the final, Sang-woo, lying on the field, commits suicide. In the second episode, we see that he wanted to commit suicide while lying in the bathtub and inhaling acrid smoke. The main good man of the drama, Pakistani Ali, dies due to the fact that Sang-wook steals his balls in the 4th game. Earlier, the hero admits that he stole a large amount of money from his boss. Number 067 Kan's Beck was also a victim of Sang-woo, who stabbed her. She also threatened her enemy in the outside world with this when she put her legs to his throat. Gangster Jang Dok-soo, number 101, dies in the 5th test, falling to the ground from a bridge. If you remember, it was by jumping off the bridge that he escaped from the bandits chasing him for debts in the outside world. Speaking of Drive S, the actor Hotham did his best. I played a moral bandit very cool. So much so that it seems that in life Oat is just as evil, callous. In fact, he is the complete opposite of his hero. His Instagram is full of pictures of cats, and the actor himself said in an interview that there is no need to be afraid of him. It does no harm. He said it, by the way, in Russian. He knows Russian and it's very cool.
I'll forget to introduce myself, I'm a Korean actor. I'm not such a bad person. No, don't be afraid of me, I don't cause people delirium.
Now back to the details. It is worth noting Ki-hun, although he did not die, but the creators showed an interesting moment. In the second episode, I beg Subek to release him. He swears by his mother that he will not demand from her the money she stole from him. As soon as Subek frees Ki-hun, he begins to demand the stolen goods. Coincidence or not, in the last episode we find out that Ki-hun's mother has died. This is all one of the main philosophical implications of the drama. We get everything we deserve. The clues were not only in front of the audience, but also in front of the players. When the players first find themselves in the main room, it is all filled with beds. In such a turmoil, you are unlikely to pay attention to the walls, but the players should have done just that. After all, symbolic hints in the form of images of games were painted on the walls. All the games, from Tug of War and Sugar Honeycomb to Glass Bridge and Pebble games were depicted from the very beginning. If the players had noticed the hints, it would have been much easier for them to play, but the images began to appear only towards the end. Only before the very last test we see all these drawings. But at least for the finalists it was clear that they would finally have to play Squid. One of the main events of the drama was the arrival of the VIPs. VIP persons in animal costumes and masks watched the latest trials, reveling in their power and chatting among themselves. One of them in one episode said the season in Korea is the best. Many of you may not have paid attention to this phrase or given it any special meaning, but it makes it clear that the game in South Korea is not the only one. Apparently, similar games are held all over the world, and that's why the VIPs arrived so late, only for the final. Apparently before that, they extinguished at another game, in another country. Other games, by the way, are indicated by another phrase of one of the VIPs, who said that watching the games live is more interesting than on TV. It is possible that in the future we will be shown games outside of Korea. It is also possible that Netflix will please us with spin-offs or prequels on this topic. 001. Despite the fact that only Ki-hun came out of the game, besides him, Nam, the 001 player, who, as it seemed at the end, was the main organizer and creator of the game, survived. The fact that he was the main one was indicated by a lot of details. His number, his excellent knowledge of the games, his sincere panic that stopped the massacre and much more. But the more interesting thing is that we may be the father of Ki-hun. This is also indicated by several details that are not easy to notice when you first view. For example, in one of the episodes, Ki-hun says that he is lactose intolerant, to which and we respond just like my son. In another episode, in the scene of the 4th game in a Pebble, Illinois, Nam wanders around the fast quarter, admiring that the scenery resembles the area where he lived. To this, Ki-hun replies that he was born in the same place. In addition, both heroes had two warm relations for such a cruel game. They constantly supported each other. Ki-hun helped Il-ilnam, and before the fourth test he gave him his jacket with the number 001. Perhaps he was trying to protect Ki-hun, because he knew that the guards would not kill a man in uniform with this number. It is possible that in the second season their story will be told in detail. It's not for nothing that Ki-hun's mother didn't say a word about his father during the entire first season. Well, write in the comments, are you waiting for the second season, and if so, what do you think it will show? And also, if you were interested, like and subscribe.